You want to go to Amazon.com to pick up the China Learning Curve. We're talking to the author right now, and that's Dan Joseph, and he's lived there literally for about a dozen years. He's worked with many multinational corporations, most recently with PNC Financial Services Group, the sixth largest bank in the United States. And I might point out that tomorrow night we're going to have their senior economist on with us talking about Pittsburgh and the national scene. Dan, about 4 minutes, quickly. Economic growth, can they keep it up? As I said earlier, they passed the United States in December. It was 14 years ago that the USA produced 3 times more than China. They've made up a lot in a fairly quick period of time. Can they keep that up? I don't know. Today they made an adjustment to continue to spur their stimulus by cutting bank reserves. Can they keep it up?
Well, just to be clear, China's economy passed the size of the U.S. economy on a purchasing power parity basis, okay? Which, let's not get into the math behind that. But the point is, in absolute terms, the United States economy is still significantly larger than the Chinese economy. Relative to growth in China, people are predicting that the Chinese economy would grind to a halt or burst for 15 years or more. I guess if you keep predicting, it might come true. But let's boil it down to the most important details. China has had incredible growth over the last 30 years, but it always has a habit of using infrastructure spending and credit creation to kind of supercharge growth, particularly when they need to meet their growth targets. They really poured on the debt creation after the financial crisis in 2008. So right now, as we sit here, estimates are that the debt-to-GDP ratio in China is roughly 250%. Now, that's high, but keep in mind that the United States, Europe, Japan, most of the developed world are closer to 300% and more. So China's not at a crisis point yet. However, that debt-to-GDP ratio has doubled in the last 5 years. That rate is unsustainable. So China has signaled, the leadership is definitely signaling that it is willing to accept lower growth and will use less spending and less debt creation to get the growth that it needs.
Because they see it.
Right.
They see it. I have 90 seconds. Are they playing fair? U.S. charges 5 Chinese military hackers with cyber espionage. This was filed, of course, in Western District. All the big names, Westinghouse, U.S. Steel, and so forth. Allegheny Technologies were compromised, according to the charges, that were for the period of 2006 to 2014. Even labor on the same side because they were attacked. Are they fair? In 60 seconds.
First of all, are they fair? They're as China's economy has transitioned, they're lowering restrictions, becoming more free trade oriented. So they're not completely fair, but they're getting more fair. So that's important. Okay. Secondly, relative to the cyber espionage, that's a complex issue, tough to cover in half a minute. But what I will say is this. It is, disturbing, even for someone deeply involved in China like me, that this kind of activity is going on. The Chinese see it very differently than we do. From our point of view, if our government spies on the Chinese government and vice versa, you and I say, an American says, well, that's what happens in the world. What the Chinese have done is they've said, well, we're going to take our government and spy on your companies, and to them, spying is spying. It's kind of the same thing. We see it differently than they do.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't make it right. It makes it more difficult to settle.
No,
Ultimately, we need to raise this to a trade issue that is, negotiated between the two governments. Companies have to do their best to take care of themselves. China's not the only one trying to steal secrets from companies. We've got other cyber criminals out there.
Right.
So companies have to take care of themselves. But at the end of the day, the U.S. government kind of needs to take the lead in this and make it a trade issue to be negotiated with the Chinese.
We thought it was a valuable time to talk with you based on the Pittsburgh connections that we've talked about. We're very glad that you took the time to join us. I agree with you. I remember when these charges came down, I read that the West and China look at it totally different. Thanks for the explanation. Great book. Continued success, and please come back.
Thanks, Ellis. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Dan Joseph. When we come back, we'll come back with some BIFs you don't want to miss, including how much you love Hillary Clinton and something about Pittsburgh as a retirement home? Really? For me? Yeah. Come on back, then Chelsea.